time is it at?
8:15, 8:20, 8:15. Yes, they're going to be here. She'll be here by 8. So pictures at 8, meeting at, I would say by 8:15. Yeah, we'll let them get their ropes off. So it might, it might be 8:20, but then at least it's started. Yeah, would that work? 8:50 to 9?
Sure.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, Stokey's are coming for the photo and then going home. Like literally just came back, and so she's going to come just for the photo. Well, and watch the meeting and have questions. You hear that? Will I be able to leave or just like leave it on that? Okay.
You show me how to shut it off.
I feel off that. Yeah. Okay. Should I just put the camera angle on like the altar or the
Put it, I'm going to just stay in the center.
Okay.
Yeah, but that means it's going to have to be, because if I, because you have what you can
Yeah.
put it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll make sure that I put it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Lighthouse first, or
Yes.
okay. So I'll let you start, and then I'll come in. Okay, so I've got the results of the game. Fun to do something a little different, and thank you for participating. So it was really close. The 8th grade won by 1. So, but 9th grade you were really close. So I've got more. Okay, so great job drawing and guessing. Hope you had fun. You did. You did. But only by a couple. You got 12, so. 16 and 17, or 15 and 16. Okay, get on your feet. Let's sing Lighthouse. So it's really good to have you back, and we've missed being with you on Wednesdays like this. It was a different Wednesday experience during lunch. Time to gather together. So we're excited to be back together for our last group of Wednesday nights for our regular confirmation. So we're going to sing Lighthouse and Oceans tonight. So.
My wrestling and in my doubts, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence, you won't let go. In the questions, your truth will hold. Love will lead us through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore. Tomorrow brings. With each morning I'll rise and sing. My God's love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. Let me hear ya. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore. One more time. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore, safe to shore.
Oceans.
You call me out upon the waters, the great unknown. will stand. And I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Your grace abounds in deepest waters. Your sovereign hand will be my guide. Where feet may fail and fear surrounds me, you've never failed and you won't start now. And I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. For I am yours, and you are mine. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. Spirit, lead me where my trust is without borders. Let me walk upon the waters wherever you would call me. Take me deeper than my feet could ever wander, and my faith will be made stronger in the presence of my Savior. I will call upon your name and keep my eyes above the waves. Where oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace. I am yours, you are mine.
You may have a seat and start working on your prayers. Test. Whoa, yeah. I might turn that one down just a bit. Oh, yeah, that's too, yeah. Test one. Test 1, 2. Whoop, which? Test 1, 2. There we go. Okay. Test 1, 2. Is that better? It's not quite as... So while you're working on your prayers, take a deep breath. Get your feet planted on the ground. Get grounded. I can take them too. They can go either in the basket or to Bruce and I, Pastor Bruce and I. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so while we're waiting to get started, I encourage you to close your eyes if you're comfortable with that, just because it helps you to close out some of the other distractions, and take a few deep breaths from your belly. Help you to slow down your thoughts a little bit. Any last prayers? Okay, let's pray. Dear God, it's great to be back together with our friends and see smiles on all of the faces of the confirmation youth and guides here tonight. I thank you for their safety, as most of us just came off of spring break. Thank you for some time to rest and play and be with family and friends. I ask that you be with those that it might still be traveling, and continue to bless our health. Now we offer up these prayers and anything else that's on our hearts that we pray for silently. I pray for all those struggling or going through a loss. I'm thankful for friends, family, shelter, food, education, and love. I pray for good grades and for the less fortunate. I pray for that everyone stays safe and that everyone gets healthy. I pray I do well on my test on Friday. I pray that I do good on my geometry test tomorrow. I pray for my grades to stay good. I pray, God, for my sister to recover from her illness. I pray that everyone stays healthy. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer.
Dear God, I pray that I do well on my tests this week and next week. Lord, I pray for patience and understanding for others in everyday interactions, for you don't know what weighs heavy on their minds and souls. Pray that lacrosse tryouts go well for everyone. I pray for all the people that are seeking help so that they can find it. Pray that you be with the people who are trying to get food to the starving people in the Sudan and in Gaza. I pray that everyone does good at tryouts this week at La Crosse. Pray for those who are struggling with mental illness. Lord, in your mercy,
hear our prayer. God, I pray that I get my missing assignments turned in and grades up. I pray for my dad and for his radiation to go well. I also pray for my best friend, my grandma. I pray that my great aunt is in a good place now. I pray that my softball season, along with other people's sports, go well this spring. I pray for Lance as he is recovering from third-degree burns. I pray for everyone who is finding it difficult to cope with their struggles. I pray for my math test to go good and to win our next soccer game. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer.
I pray for my first track meet. Pray for me to keep my friends now and keep making new ones on the way. And I also hope that people will let me be me. I pray for my family. I pray for my grandma who is battling breast cancer. I pray for everyone. I pray that my uncle is living a more wonderful life in heaven with God. I pray that I keep good grades through the end of the school year. Lord, in your mercy.
Hear our prayer. God, I pray that my volleyball and softball seasons go well this year. I also pray that everyone stays happy and healthy. I pray for my mom and her sisters as they grieve the loss of their oldest sister. I pray for peace in areas that need it the most. I pray for my dog doing well in heaven. I pray for my volleyball tournament this weekend and that I can have a good golf season. I pray that everyone stays healthy and the weather warms up. I pray for everyone's health. I pray for volleyball and good grades. And I pray, God, for everyone's health and to have a good month of April. Lord, in your mercy, hear our prayer.
I pray for a good rest of the school year. I pray for a safe baseball season coming up. I pray I keep doing well in school. I pray for my grandma's health to get better and for everyone to have a good rest of their week. Lord, all these prayers, these that we've spoken and those unspoken, we all lift to you, confident in your great love for us, knowing that you know what's best for us and you'll do what's best. And so we put all these prayers in your loving hands, trusting in your great grace and blessing and mercy. In Jesus' holy name we ask this, and all God's children said, amen.
A couple announcements tonight. Friday Night Lights, and not this Friday, but the next, 7 to 10 p.m., so what would that be, like March 12? Yeah, okay. So you've got a little over a week. April, sorry, still on spring break. April. It is April. Affirmation of baptism, which is our those who are getting confirmed, finishing the process that you are doing, is called affirmation of baptism because we are affirming and saying yes to the promises made in our baptism. That's why we do confirmation. So the 10th graders that have completed that process are getting confirmed and affirming those baptismal promises this Sunday, and it's at a special service at 11:30. You are welcome to attend if you want to. There's still 9:30 worship, but we thought we'd let you know about this service. Especially you 9th graders, you may want to come and be at that worship service to see what you'll be doing next year and support the 10th graders. This Saturday, we have a really fun event. 6:30, doors are opening. There's drinks and desserts and different refreshments, and 7 o'clock the program will begin in here, I believe. A comedian that's coming to kick off, we're doing a capital campaign. If you don't know anything about that, that's totally fine. We are looking at, believe it or not, the church has to pay for things that we do, like fix our parking lot, fix our steeple. Do you see that up there? Yeah, the water damage, and yeah, it's been leaking for a while. So there's some things we need to do, and they're not very fun or appealing, but they still cost money. And then we're also possibly looking at some remodeling things within the church, like kicking out a wall and making the narthex a little bigger, so there's some priorities, but there's things that we need to do to our building to have a place where we can continue to have fun and play games and worship. And so April is the month that we are talking about. It's called a capital campaign to raise money for these projects that we need to do. And so it's kicking off this Saturday with a comedy event, and we also need childcare. So if a couple of you are interested in helping with childcare, you could hear it in the nursery, but still and get some service hours. But we'd also love for you to just come and attend it. Anything else with that? Guides, you do have in your buckets worship notes that you can hand back to people. Pastor Bruce has kicked up his game a little bit. And now is he not only writing on them, he's typing responses.
Well,
so
now you can actually read what I wrote.
I would frame that.
But I should have done
I
that
took
years
some
ago.
pictures. Here's my thing, you guys. If I find these in the garbage, I will return them to you because he spends hours on these. So look at all these worship notes from the last couple months. Bring them home and actually read them, please. And you may not appreciate it so much now, but maybe you want to stick it in a journal or something and read it in 10 years and be like,
oh, I remember when I asked that question in worship, and here's what Pastor Bruce wrote, It's so cool that your pastor does this. So do not throw them in the garbage. There's he really takes your questions seriously, and you are so lucky to have a pastor that wants to hear what you ask and then responds to it. So bring it home with you and read the, it's really cool. So anyway, I know you didn't know I was going to say that.
But yeah.
There you go.
So anyway, I just typed the longer answers. Some were pretty brief, and I just write. And
He's still writing on them, too.
My apologies for my handwriting. So anyway, I will try and maybe do all of them typing. I should have done it years ago. But anyway, a couple of related faith questions. And as I went through what you did in Lent on your worship notes, I got at least 6 or 8 questions about Holden Evening Prayer, which is a service we do every Lent on Wednesday night. So how many of you came on a Wednesday night this Lent and sang this? Okay? And
if you didn't, you need to do 2 worship notes. So go back and watch online, and you'll know what Pastor Bruce is talking about.
So people are just asking, what is it? Why do we do it? And the short answer is, beginning about 1,500 years ago, so about 500 AD, so 15 centuries ago, there were Christians who moved into what were called monasteries for men and convents for women, and they lived there and worked there, but they also had chapels like this sanctuary, and they would pray regularly through the day. So they pray at 6 a.m., 9 a.m., noon, 3 p.m., 6 p.m., 9 p.m., and they would do that every day, okay? Well, the 6 o'clock p.m. service is called evening prayer. And so I'm not going to have you look now, but when you come to church sometime and you look at the front of the hymnal, starting on page 298, is evening prayer. There's morning prayer and night prayer here, so we have 3 of them. And so Christians have been praying evening prayer for 1,500 years. And so this comes from a composer named Marty Haugen, who wrote the music to evening prayer, because you always use Psalm 141 and Mary's Magnificat as part of evening prayer, and then some other prayers. And he put it to music at a place called Holden Village, which is a retreat center in the mountains in the state of Washington. So that's where the Holden comes from Holden Village. And he wrote it there, published it, and we do it because it's one of the favorites around here. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of music. And it's so good for evening. When you come to the evening service, there's just a different feel than it is during the morning. And so that's where this came from, and we do it because we like it. And I continue to like it. I've sung this for, 30 years probably. And I've never grown tired of it, which I can't say about too many pieces of music. So anyway, that's what Holden Evening Prayer is. But that's just something from the history of the church and daily prayer. So thanks for asking. Thanks for giving me the chance to talk to you a little bit about the history of daily prayer in the church. All right. I think that's what I have there. So 9th graders, you are off to the living room. Okay. 7th and 8th graders, I want you to stand and stretch a little bit. Okay, move a little bit before we get into our large group topic. Okay. All right, this year we've been talking about relationships. And last fall we concentrated on this relationship, on a relationship to the Lord. How do we grow closer to the Lord, and how do we have a deeper relationship? And then you may remember last winter we did some stuff on how to be a real friend. And we did like the WHEAT acronym and how to, welcome people and all that kind of thing, because the best way to have friends is to be a real friend. If you're a real friend, you will always have friends. these next several weeks, we're going to talk about what I've entitled Real Love, and that's about romantic relationships. And what does God think about how romantic relationships should be conducted? Okay, so I'm going to go through some things here about dating and about attraction, and then when I'm done, you're all going to get a note card, and I want you to write one of two things: either a question you have about human sexuality, anything about human sexuality that you want to ask a question about. The ground rules with the question is no personal questions, okay? Don't ask me about my love life. I want to ask you about your love life, okay? So no personal questions. And if you know the proper term for something, then I want you to use it, okay? If you don't have a question, then you need to tell me how your day was. So everybody writes something on the card, okay? And I'm going to collect them, and then I will answer whatever questions you have. And then in the last part of our session tonight, you'll go into your small group, and as you are going to see, I'm going to ask you to think about, make a list of what are the characteristics of a true friend, what's a real friend like, and then secondly, what do you find attractive in somebody else, okay? So somebody you'd be interested, okay? So you'll understand as we get through this, okay? So start thinking about questions you might have, okay? All right, so if you don't remember anything else about tonight, take this home. If you remember this, okay, you will be miles ahead of where I was at your age. Dating is about friendship, not about sex, okay? What you're told by American culture is just the opposite, that dating is about sex, and it's about being in a relationship with somebody and how far are you going to go sexually. So the thing that's different about a dating relationship is it's a sexual relationship. That's a lie. That's a myth. That is only going to get you into all kinds of pain and heartache if you buy into the cultural myth about dating. Dating is about friendship, not about sex, okay? So when you think about dating, boyfriend, girlfriend, focus on the second half of the word, not the first half. Friend, okay? Not boy, girl, but friend, because that's really what it's about, okay? And here's why, okay? The question is, can you build a friendship with someone who is different than you, who is unlike you? Okay? Because that's the challenge about having a genuine romantic relationship that's genuinely loving. Can you be a real friend? Okay? I'm a firm believer that if you are so blessed to be married to your best friend, that is a wonderful gift. Okay? I can say that about Cynthia. She is my best friend. I am very blessed that that's what we are, because a lot of marriage is about being best friends. And so the question is, who's the kind of person that you can be best friends with for a lifetime? Now, I know for you, marriage is a long, long ways off, okay? But that's where this is heading, that eventually most of you are going to want to choose somebody to spend your life with. And if you are blessed, it will be someone you count as your best friend, okay? And so what you are doing now is figuring out the kind of person you can be best friends with. Who's the person who's a good fit for you? Because you're not going to be best of friends with everybody in the world, but there are certain kinds of people that for you are a really good fit. And nobody else can really tell you who that is. You've got to figure that out yourself. Think about your personality, your interests, your passions, your aspirations, and who's the person who really fits well with that for you, okay? And already now, at your age, you can begin to figure that out, okay? So I think it's best at your age if you date in groups, okay? Don't even think about one-on-one dating yet. You are just way, way too young for that, okay? Don't put yourself in that kind of situation under that kind of pressure, okay? But even in a group, you can be thinking about, okay, this person that I'm, going out with, is this a good fit? Is this the kind of person I can imagine myself with? Okay? And sometimes, and even as you get older and you start going on one-on-one dates and you're like, well, yeah, this one worked, but, no, this wasn't so good. Or, no, I really couldn't see myself with a person who's like whatever, okay? Doesn't mean they're a bad person. It just means it's not the right fit for you, okay? So starting to think about knowing yourself well enough to know who that might be, okay? And then beginning to figure that out, okay? All right, okay. We don't have time to give you a talk break, so I'm going to keep on going. Okay. Now, one of the things we need to talk about in this context is body image, okay? Because we live in a culture that's telling us certain things that aren't true, okay? I think for most girls, the message you get all the time is your body is too big. I don't care who you are. That's what you're being told, okay? And so what that leads to at the extreme is eating disorders, right? Girls who think their bodies are too big and they'll do anything to make them smaller, okay? And for boys, it's just the opposite, okay? Boys are told your bodies are too small. You need to get bigger, stronger, faster, okay? And there's nothing wrong with being bigger, stronger, and faster, except sometimes, what some teenage boys get hooked on is steroids, okay? Because they think they need to be bigger and faster and stronger, okay? And so one of the things that I think that it's important to remember is not to judge yourself on the size of your body, okay? Either if you're a boy or a girl, okay? Now, when I was a teenager, okay, believe it or not, I went to the weight room and I lifted weights. As you can see, it really didn't do much for me, okay? I've always been a skinny kid, okay? And you know why I was there? It wasn't because I love lifting weights. I hate lifting weights. It's the most boring thing in the world for me. But why, right? Because my body was too small. I needed to be bigger, have more muscles, and if I had more muscles, then girls would be attracted to me, okay? And I came to find out later that really didn't matter that much, okay? All right? There are other things that are far more important than what your body looks like. And I think we put way, way too much emphasis on looks. What your body looks like, on your face, all that stuff. All right? So, I think as a child of God, you need to remember that God loves you as you are, including your body. God does not make junk. You are not junk, okay? You are beloved, you are precious, you are God's handiwork, just the way you are. And God makes each of us different, okay? Because God is a God who is creative and likes to make each of us unique, okay? So you are loved as you are. The kind of person you want to date is the person who will affirm that and say, you are fine just the way you are. I accept you, I love you just the way you are, okay? And you want to be able to do that to somebody else and say, I accept you, I like you, I love you someday perhaps, just the way you are, okay? All right. Okay. Then the other thing, okay, is I want you to think a little bit about what does it mean, boys, to be masculine? What does it mean to be a man? Okay? All right? And one of the things that I think we get as messages as guys is you need to be the tough guy, the strong guy, the macho guy, okay? And there's nothing wrong with being tough and strong. There's a place for that. But the downside is when you're told, yeah, but if you're a real man, you're never going to cry. Big boys don't cry, okay? That's a myth. That's a lie. I can tell you, boys feel things just as deeply as girls. And there's a time to be tough, and there's a time to be tender, okay? And as a real man, you know when's the time to be each. When are the times when you really need to be tough, when you need to suck it up, when you just need to push through, okay? There are times when you need to do that. But there are times when you need to be open, you need to be vulnerable, you need to be brave enough to cry and to be honest about what you're feeling at a certain time, okay? So there's a great word called being a gentleman that captures those things. Gentle, that tender, vulnerable, open side. And then man, being tough, being strong, protective, and being both, and knowing when to be which one. So think about, what are the messages you're getting about what does it mean to be a man, to be masculine, and are they true? Okay? And girls, what does it mean to be feminine? Okay? All right? I think that you get some of the messages sometimes, and I'm not female, but things like, well, don't be too strong or too powerful because you're going to scare guys away. Because guys don't like strong women, so you have to defer to them, and you have to be meek and mild and kind of shrinking, and don't take up too much space, and don't be too smart because guys don't like smart girls. And I think it's all these messages about diminishing yourself and being less than what you really are and not being able to really live into all your gifts and your skills and your accomplishments, okay? I don't think that's what it means to be feminine, okay? I think to be feminine is to be fully who you are as a person, and that you girls are in a way better situation, I think, than girls of my era, okay? I mean, just for the fact, for example, that you're able to play sports ever since you were this big. Girls could not play varsity sports until I was a senior in high school. That was the first time we ever had varsity basketball, varsity volleyball, any of that, okay? You're growing up in an age where you have the opportunity to do these things that were once thought women can't do them, they're not, women aren't strong enough to do all that stuff, okay? And so think about, what does it mean to be feminine, okay? And it doesn't mean that you can't be attractive and you can't enjoy those kind of feminine touches. You can. But don't let yourself be squeezed into a little box and say that's all you can be, okay? You're much more than that, okay? All right. So, anonymous questions. Guides, if you'd hand everybody a question or a card, and then everybody writes something on the card, even a question you have about sexuality or how your day was. And we'll put them in the basket and then take a few minutes to answer those. Yeah. Okay.
Are we writing again? Or we're doing that in
In small group. Right. All right. Here are the questions that we had. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I will. These are going to be very brief, and we may touch on some of these things later as we go forward. Okay. Question. This question is, what is sex in quotation marks? And I think that that's probably sexual intercourse. Okay. Typically, what that is, okay, is that it's male and female. Okay. That male's penis is inserted into woman's vagina, okay? And then eventually sperm is ejaculated. And if that sperm goes up into uterus at a time when there's an egg in the uterus and it's fertilized, that's how conception happens. And that's how you have a child, okay? That's how a baby gets started, okay? So I think that that's what that question was about, okay? How did Adam and Eve know how to have children? Okay. That's something, we'll talk about that a little bit next week, about God just builds into us this sexual desire for someone else, okay? And that just was kind of a given in their creation. But we'll talk more about where does that come from and why do we have these desires sexually for another person, okay? Are there more than two genders? We'll talk more about this either next week or the following week. But I think one of the things that's changed is that when I was growing up, it was pretty clear that we all thought that there's male and female, two choices. Now it's much more like it's on a spectrum of where people's gender identity is much more fluid, and it's clear that there are more than one sense of gender, so that and we'll talk more about that. But I think, yes, it's probably fair to say that there is more than two. Then a couple of questions about what does God think about gay marriage? And then in Leviticus 18:22, it deems homosexuality an abomination. Why is that, and why are there some leaders of faith saying the opposite? Okay. We'll get to that in more detail, but the short answer is, for centuries, Christian leaders thought that the desire for someone of the same sex was a consequence of human sin, that it was because we're sinful people and people have this desire. What's changed is in the last 50 years, certainly in my lifetime, we have brothers and sisters in the faith who have said, it's not like that for me at all, that it doesn't feel wrong, it actually feels it's right. When people get to be your age, and when you start to get into adolescence and your hormones start to kick in and you start to have testosterone and estrogen going, and you have these sexual desires for the first time, people who are LGBTQ will say, I just over time realized I was attracted not to people of the opposite sex, but the same sex. It's not like I got up one morning and said, I think I'm going to be gay. It's just this growing awareness that I'm just attracted to people of the same sex, okay? And because they said that, then we had to kind of rethink what's in the Bible, and we'll talk more about some of the Bible things. But people finding that as much as they tried to suppress it and not try and feel differently, it's just, they couldn't. It's not going to happen. And so we found that being in those relationships, being married, that if you are LGBTQ and married to someone who is same gender, they have loving, caring, wonderful marriages. They're great parents. I mean, all the people I know who are LGBTQ are some of the finest people. They love Jesus, and see, you guys are probably too young. Well, some of you may have remembered Pastor Lee, who was the pastor here before me. He's gay, and been gay his entire life since he was a teenager, and he's married now to his husband, Dennis, okay? Wonderful person, just great pastor, okay? And so we've kind of had to rethink our whole understanding of same-sex relationships. So we'll talk more about that. We'll talk more about gender identity and all those sorts of things that you hear so much about and try and understand it. But I think the most important thing maybe is if you're trying to understand this is listen to the people who are LGBTQ. They're the ones who can tell us what it's like, okay? I mean, it's kind of like if I were to tell you what it's like to be LGBTQ, it would be kind of like me trying to tell you what it's like to be pregnant, okay? I'm never going to know what it's like to be pregnant, okay? I've been a coach 3 times, you know? Pretty good coach, I think, right there? No, just kidding. Okay? Great coach, great coach. But I'm never going to know what it's like to be pregnant. You have to ask someone who has been, right? Same thing with this. You need to listen to them and to their experience and what it's like for them, okay? All right, so we've got about 15 minutes, so not a lot of time, but hopefully you'll have time in small groups. List the qualities or characteristics of a best friend. What do you think makes a person a best friend? And then secondly, what do you find attractive in a boy, okay? And what do you find attractive in a girl, okay? And start making those lists and guides. If you would just pass out cards, 2 cards to each confirmand for each best friend and attractive, and collect those and then give them to me afterwards, and I'll put them together and I'll put them on the screen for next week so we can just kind of see what the consensus is, okay? And attractiveness can be physical, it can be something mental, emotional, spiritual, it can be all those things because we're attracted to people for lots of reasons, okay? All right, thank you. Okay.